let me start by welcoming everyone to Student Workshop 3A, Admissions, Insights, and Academic Preparation for the University of Auckland. I am joined here by Ashley Monaghan, who is the Regional Manager for North America. A warm welcome to you, Ashley. A quick message to all our participants. Please use the comment section on the right side of the screen to introduce yourself and share any comments with other workshop participants. And then right next to it, you'll see a Q&A tab. I'm going to direct you to that for posting questions. So if you have any questions for the presenter, please click on that tab and put it in there. You will not immediately see questions or comments until they're reviewed by the moderator. So, and this may take a minute, so please be patient and don't double post. We will aim to run the presentation till about 10:45, and then we'll have 10 minutes or so for some Q&A at the end. Does that sound okay with you, Ashley?
Yes, it does. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Okay, Ashley, it's all yours. Feel free to begin.
Thank you, Fernando, for that introduction. So again, hello and welcome everyone. My name is Ashley Monaghan. I am a regional manager for North America for the University of Auckland. So I'm very excited to be chatting with everyone today about all of the amazing things that not only the University of Auckland, but that New Zealand has to offer. And with that said, I am going to release a poll to the group to see if everyone or anyone has ever been to New Zealand before. And let's see if I can put this in here. Yes, please introduce yourself. I appreciate that. So anyway, I've just released a poll, I think, to the group to see who all has been to New Zealand before. So please feel free to put that in, and then I'll check it a little bit later. And I'm going to carry on with our presentation. So today you are going to learn about, of course, New Zealand, Aotearoa, New Zealand. So we are a modern society with unique values that I will discuss with you today. And that's important for you to keep in mind when making your decision about applying to university and ultimately attending university. Of course, I'll go over the nuances and the info on the University of Auckland so you can get a better sense of the university, as well as our faculty and study options, of course, very important information, but also the student experience, even more important information, and really making that experience your own and looking at it through the lens of the academic, the social, and ultimately the professional opportunities that we have to offer. And then very important are also the scholarships as well. So just so you have an idea of where we are located, it's sort of a running joke with us in New Zealand on where we are on the map or off the map. But as you can see, we're tucked down just southeast of Australia. We are separated from them by the Tasman Sea. And I think that's the last time I'm going to mention Australia in this presentation, but it gives you a sense of place. And then, of course, Auckland is located on the North Island. We have three main islands of New Zealand. So we have North Island, South Island, and Stewart Island, which is the one that you see just at the bottom there. And so just so you have kind of a sense of where you'd be studying and where you would be and how far away you would be, which I think is also quite important. But New Zealand is made up of three qualities that make us unique, which is something that I mentioned at the start. It's a cultural perspective. It's something that you can expect when you come to not only to the University of Auckland, but also to New Zealand. So Kaitiaki, we are guardians of people, place, and planet. Ingenuity, our spirit of exploration, adventure, and creativity, and integrity. We do what we say we will do. So this is something that you can expect from Kiwis anywhere that you go in New Zealand, but within the lens of Auckland and the University of Auckland, it's something that you can think of and really experience as a student. So Auckland specifically, our city, we are the largest city in New Zealand. It has about 1.5 million people, which may not seem like a lot, but when the entire country is made up of just about 5 million people, it can feel like the big city, which is, of course, something that students really like because it offers you a lot of ways to spend time within the city, shopping, eating, but not just that, professional experiences, ways for you to go to the beaches and the mountains and all of the different natural offerings that that the country has to offer, not far from the big city of Auckland. So that's a way for you to take advantage of everything that the city has to offer. So in terms of rankings, we are the third in the world for quality of living. There's also something called the Global Peace Index, which is another quantitative ranking in which we are pretty consistently number 2 in the world. Auckland is a safe city, statistically speaking, which is great for students as well. And then we are in the top 25 for student cities pretty consistently as well. About 25% of our population in Auckland was born in another country. So as you can imagine, we are quite diverse in the city of Auckland, but at the university level as well, we are quite diverse. As I mentioned, there's about 1.5 million people that live in Auckland, but we are the hub in New Zealand for the commercial and business center. And in terms of opportunities, climate, and lifestyle, we are also the top city in New Zealand. So something to keep in mind when making your decision and all of the different offerings that we can allow you during your time as a student, but also potentially your time after being a student as well. Now, to narrow it down even more, at the university level, we are ranked number 81 in the world according to the QS World Rankings. We are consistently ranked within the top 1% of universities worldwide, which is quite impressive. We're a large research institution, as I mentioned, about 42,000 students on campus. So you really get that collaborative, innovative, entrepreneurial spirit at the University of Auckland. We are ranked number 1 in terms of the universities in New Zealand. There's about 8 universities across the entirety of New Zealand, or public institutions, that is, and we are consistently ranked number 1 according to QS and the Times Higher Education. We have about 8,000 international students representing over 120 countries on campus. So again, that just really emphasizes the diversity and the international presence that we have and that we value on campus as well. We're the highest ranked New Zealand university for graduate employability, which is great in terms of the return on investment for you as a student. And we are the most innovative university in New Zealand. And I believe I have an example of that a little bit later in terms of one of the most recent examples of innovation on campus. So I can highlight that for you as well. So we'll carry on then. So what you can expect from the University of Auckland in New Zealand is we help you make positive difference in the world. So our teaching, as I mentioned, is focused on that big thinking mentality, social, industrial trends for the future. So climate change, digital innovation, technology, health trends, those are all things that we really pride ourselves on and ways for you to not only study, but also take part in on a social level with our clubs and societies that we have. So these are things that are values for us and how we like to lead when we teach. And then real industry settings. So remember, our 5,000 staff that we have are all leaders in the field. So academically, our faculties have, and I'll show you an example of this, state-of-the-art facilities that you are able to use, studios and workspaces that you have access to, gyms, technology, equipments and tools, things that are really going to make a difference to you in your education when you're getting that hands-on experience. So just keep that in mind, that we are quite a modern university, and our faculties are ever changing and are ever updating, and that really gives you the best experience and the best facilities at hand as a student. And of course, as I mentioned before, because Auckland is such a large city, and because there's a lot of different professional opportunities for you, just keeping in mind the network that you're going to make at the University of Auckland is life-changing. So we connect you with employers. You have opportunities for internships. If you're on a student visa in New Zealand, you have the opportunity to work 20 hours a week during your breaks, 40 hours a week on 20 hours a week during the academic year, 40 hours a week on breaks, which is great for you. And just a fun fact, the minimum wage in New Zealand is $21 an hour, which is quite high across the global plane of minimum wage, or the average, I guess, worldwide. So I really like to highlight that as a perk for students, because everybody is on a student budget. And of course, finances are important to all of us. So just something to keep in mind. But back to the network. So we think of this idea of networking as, something that you have to do, and it's very task oriented and purposeful. But when you are studying at the University of Auckland and you are participating in class with your academics and your classmates, when you are participating in canoeing club or the underwater society, you're meeting people that are going to be part of your global network. And you might call them your friends, but keep in mind, when you graduate and perhaps people go back to their home countries, this is an opportunity for you to really enhance your global network. So networking, as we think about it, doesn't have to be so rigid. It can be actually quite flexible and quite approachable that way. So I just like to point that out for students who thought, like I did when I was a student, that networking was kind of dreaded. And it doesn't have to be. You can be connected worldwide to employers and other opportunities just by participating in things that you're passionate about. And we are quite entrepreneurial at the University of Auckland. We have two programs, one called Velocity, one called the Unleash Space. And those are ways for you to really dive into a business idea or concept or anything entrepreneurial that you want to collaborate on and develop as part of a business idea or research that you have. It's noted that 1/3 of our alumni say they're serial entrepreneurs and they have founded 2 or more companies. So that's something that we're quite proud of, and we try to bolster and feed into at the academic and university level. So if that sounds like something that is interesting to you, but you're not a business student, just know that you have these 2 opportunities, these 2 programs to really dive in. Okay, now for the very important stuff, of course, because you're going to be studying. What can you study? We have 8 different faculties, over 200 different programs for undergraduate students, everything from arts, so languages, politics, media, anthropology, things like that, to business and economics. Our business school, as I'll mention later, is triple accredited, so that's quite popular with students as well, especially international students. You can study international business, management, many things in that faculty. We have creative arts and industries, so architecture, fine arts, music, design. Those are the different subjects that you can study within that faculty. Then we have education and social work. So educational leadership, counseling, teaching, those are some examples of the different majors that you can have within that faculty. Engineering is another one that is very popular with us. We have civil, structural, mechanical, energy, software, and robotics engineering at the University of Auckland. So that's quite impressive in terms of the different opportunities that you can have if you're interested in that faculty. We have the Faculty of Law, so you can study international, human rights, commercial, and environmental. We have the Medical and Health Sciences faculty, and that is medicine, public health, nursing and biomedical sciences. And then we have science. So you can study things like stats, chemistry, environmental, computer science, and many more. This is a non-exhaustive list of different programs for you, but just a snapshot for you to get excited about and delve into. The program pages on our website, which house all of this information, are very comprehensive. So those are going to be ways for you to really get some more information, including entry requirements, fees, because everything is slightly different by faculty and then, of course, by program. So those are going to be your best resource, those program pages on our website. Now, because we're thinking about our undergraduate, these are the different programs at the University of Auckland. We have preparation and international foundation programs, which are ways for you to get credits towards your degree. And then undergraduate programs, of course, we have bachelor's and we have graduate diplomas. Most students today are going to be interested in those bachelor's degrees. But perhaps you want to think about your continuing your education. Just know that we do offer postgraduate programs and doctoral degrees if that is something that you think is going to be on your academic and professional career path moving forward. Okay, as I mentioned, our facilities before, I do want to point out our Faculty of Arts. So this is our going to be our fresh new building that we have. It's quite stunning. This is just, of course, a photo of it. It's not an actual image, but this is what it's going to look like. And we are top 50 in the world for some of our Faculty of Arts programs like archaeology, anthropology, English language, and literature. So if you're interested in those programs, know that those are highly ranked amongst the highly ranked, if that makes sense. And then this is an actual image of our business school, which, again, another stunning state-of-the-art facility that we have for you. We are ranked within the top 100 in the world within economics and I'm not even going to try that one. Business and management, accounting and finance. And as I mentioned, we are triple accredited at our business school. So that's something for you to keep in mind regardless of faculty. A lot of students say, well, I don't necessarily want to stay in New Zealand after I graduate. I want to go back to Canada, or I want to go back to whatever country you grew up in, or you want to go pursue your education in a different country. Our degrees are internationally recognized. So what that means is you're not going to have to get additional licensure regardless of what you're studying. If you're studying some faculties like law or medicine, sometimes within the health sciences, you do have to get additional licensure regardless of where you study. So that's something to keep in mind, but just know that our programs are internationally recognized and within our business school, internationally accredited as well. All right, engineering. We are, of course, New Zealand's leading engineering faculty, just because of how we are ranked within the universities in New Zealand. So just know that means that our faculty at the academic level is ranked #1, and then graduate employability as well. We are number 39th in the world for civil and structural engineering. So we are, and many of our engineering programs are also within those top 50 worldwide. So keep that in mind as well, that we are, that those are quite popular. If you are interested in something like computer science within our Faculty of Science, we are the birthplace of the R programming language, which is really important to know as well, just so that you can kind of get, again, a sense of place and a sense of the importance that we put on the different faculties. And again, this is non-exhaustive. Those are just 4 examples of different faculties and ways that you can really see the innovation that's been happening on campus with us over the years at the University of Auckland. So if you're doing your own research, which I encourage you all to do, and you are interested in pursuing these different study options, you can see our different faculties that we have on the website, and you will look at find a study option and then go to the different programs, the bachelor's degrees that we have, and then by subject as well. When you do go to the different programs, you'll be able to, as I mentioned, see the duration of the program if you take it full-time or part-time. Most of our undergraduate degrees are 3 years in length, and then if that's a full-time degree, and then part-time will vary slightly. Something to keep in mind as well is the start dates. Because we are a Southern Hemisphere school, our semester 1 always starts in February each year. So semester 1 is February to June, semester 2 is July to November. And then you get a 3-month summer holiday from November to February. Just keep in mind when you are looking at the program pages, like I said, they are, that's your best resource, and they have the most updated, nuanced information. However, make sure you are checking when the start date of your course can be. It can be a semester 1 start, or it can be a semester 2 start, or it could be both. So keep that in mind. You'll also want to look at the campus location because we have multiple campuses. Most of the classes that you take can be studied on our city campus, but just double check because that is not, that's not exhaustive. There are some classes that you will be taking that you can be taking on other campuses. I think that's pretty much it in terms of what to look for on the program page, other than, of course, the in terms of the program structure, and then you'll want to look at the entry requirements. So unless you are a New Zealand national, which I don't believe anyone is, when you go to the entry requirements, you're going to be looking at your highest qualification from the country that you are getting your education through. So you'll be looking at outside New Zealand. We, of course, have Singapore as an example here, but you'll be using Canada, and you'll be looking at the Ontario Secondary School Diploma in most cases. So with the OSSD, we're looking at a 65% overall minimum. That's something for you to keep in mind, that's what we're going to be looking for. For English language requirements, we are looking at 1 year of academic English full-time. So for those of you who are studying at Rosedale, you're going to be taught in English. And as long as you're academically taught in English for 1 full year, full-time, prior to applying, then we aren't going to be looking for IELTS or TOEFL. The university, of course, the admissions team has the discretion of asking you for things like that if they feel like English is something that you need to prove. But in most cases, that is, if you've been taught full-time at academically in English, then you won't have to submit that. But just keep that in mind, that because all of our classes are taught in English, that's something that you will have to have mastered. Great news. We have a lot of scholarships for international students. I kind of boast about that as well. So you'll want to look at the program, the scholarship page on our website, which I have on the slide there, to see all of the different scholarships that are available to you. There's a lot of them, but one I want to bring to your attention is the University of Auckland International Student Excellence Scholarship. This is a scholarship that's up to 10,000 New Zealand dollars for undergraduate programs, and we have 25 of them available. So if you're an international student, because that is the requirement that you have for this, I would encourage you to look into that and make an application for it. Your scholarships are not automatically applied. You will have to apply to them separately once you're admitted to the institution. So even if you get a conditional offer, you're able to apply to the scholarship. So just something for you to look into if that is of interest to you. But know that the university is very generous with our scholarships that we offer, and we spend $15 million on average worldwide, on average every year in worldwide scholarships that we offer to international students. So that's quite impressive. And again, look at that website to see if you can apply to anyone other than the excellence. Okay, and of course, we do offer university accommodation, which is very important to you. It's important to us as well. We know, as you saw on the map earlier, that New Zealand is quite far away from everywhere, which makes it such a unique place. But that also means we want you to have that sense of home and comfortability even before you set foot on campus with us. So we do provide accommodation for you at the university. We have several different options for you as an international student. So just know that it's about a 5 to 15-minute walk, depending on where you live with us on campus. So quite walkable. And most students also say that Auckland as a city is quite walkable and quite easy to get around with public transportation too. So it feels very connected, even though, again, it is the big city. We have two different types of accommodation options, catering or self-catering. The catered option means that you have that you are basically part of a meal plan that you are going to be eating campus provided food options for you. Self-catered means you're going to go to the shops, you're going to buy food yourself, you're going to take it back to your flat, and you're going to cook it. That is by far the more popular option, just because I think of the maturity and independence of the typical Auckland student. Again, as an undergraduate student, you are treated like an adult, so there is that sort of cultural shift that you will experience. I do want to mention that in our accommodation, by far, most options are going to be your own room. So you'll have other Kiwi flatmates, or you'll have other international students who are flatmates sharing a bathroom or a kitchen with you. You can make friends with them quite easily if you do the self-catered option and you all cook together. Who wouldn't want to be friends with someone who's providing meals every night? But just know that that is something for you to, in my opinion, look forward to. I think having your own room is quite a perk. As I mentioned, easy walking distance with most of the accommodations within the city campus. We pick you up from the airport, which is also nice and goes to show how welcoming Kiwis are, and particularly the University of Auckland is with our international students. We are excited to meet you upon arrival, and we want to take that one less stress for you to think about and be able to immediately put a name with a face. As I'll mention, you have access to all of the facilities that domestic students have because you are a student at the University of Auckland, which means our gyms and recreation centers, and a lot of our accommodations have those as well. And similarly to what you would experience in North American universities, we have residential advisors, which is great because there are programming options. There are ways for you to then, again, have social experiences with your flatmates and with others who live in the accommodation hall with you. And there's also that pastoral care element of having a residential advisor who is there if you have questions or you need services or you just need help in some way. They're often the first point of contact for students who are living in our residence halls. And before I continue, I did want to just, again, point out if anyone has questions, I will be answering those live at the end, but don't forget to put them in the chat, and I'm happy to take a look at those at the very end of the session. I can't right now, but just a reminder if you have any questions to put them in. All right, so other ways for you to get involved, because of course we are a large institution. We have over 240 different club societies and associations for students, lots of ways for you to get involved. And I always say getting involved is something that perhaps you participated in back home. So maybe a musical instrument or a sport, but also taking part in opportunities that are only offered to you because you are a student at the University of Auckland in New Zealand. So doing things like tramping club, which is what they call hiking, and taking part in canoeing club, any kind of water sport that we have to offer is very important. Any of our Maori and Pacific clubs are going to be a very unique cultural experience for you, and ones that you can only have in New Zealand. So that's another great opportunity. We also have ways for you to get involved in community service, so you can volunteer your time as well. We have academic societies and professional societies, again, to boost your employability and going back to what I said before, to really bolster your global network. That's going to be a really good opportunity for you. So even if you can't find anything that interests you with the 240 clubs and everything that I just mentioned, you can start your own if there is an interest, and it's quite easy to do. So just know that that's something that is on offer if you are bored of all of the other societies that we offer, or you have such a specific taste in something that you really want to experience and bring to other students at the University of Auckland. You have that opportunity. Okay, so everything that I'm saying is, of course, wonderful, I'm sure, if I do say so myself. But don't take it from me. We have a lot of student ambassadors that are available to give you their insight, and they are current students at the University of Auckland. So we are part of a feature called UniBuddy, which allows you to go onto our website and chat with students who are perhaps you're interested in studying biology and you want to speak to another undergraduate biology student. You can go to our website and you can speak to international students directly through a chat feature that allows you to get your questions answered and get their insight. Perhaps you are a student from China and you want to get insight from students who are Chinese and you want to hear about their experience. You can go on to the same platform and you can search students by country from which they applied, and you can speak to them about their experience. Anything to help you get a better insight and really hear about the individual experiences that are going to make a difference for you. I would encourage you to go on and hear from the students directly, because they're going to have a very different perspective than I do. All right, so all well and good. Of course, your university experience, I hopefully gave you enough of a snapshot of what you can expect as a university student. But what about after you graduate? You are eligible for a post-study work visa. New Zealand is quite welcoming of international students, and we do want you to be able to have the opportunity to apply for this visa to stay on after you graduate, which is very important and going to give you even more of a skill set to be able to develop utilizing your degree directly in the community in which you got it in. So a lot of different connections that you've made and real world skills that you've had as a university student can be immediately put to good use. And again, it says on the slide, but it's worth mentioning that we're ranked #1, again, for graduate employability. And it has to do with our position, of course, in a city center and the connections that the university has to the city itself. So as a student, in order to prepare for your time after graduation, we have our Career Development and Employability Services team at the University of Auckland. This is a team that's going to help you really develop the skills that you're going to use immediately after you graduate, and even in a lot of cases before you graduate. So of course, I already spoke about the network that you're automatically going to have at the university level, which is just, it's incomparable to other experiences that you're going to have in terms of, I guess, an organic network. But in order to develop the skills that you're going to have, maybe more of the hard skills that you're going to have, like interviewing and going to events and working on your CV and cover letters, that's where this team is really going to come in and be able to help you. So just know that they will provide you assistance up to 3 years after you graduate as well through their platform that they offer you. And these are ways, again, for you on campus to be able to meet with them and ask them questions and really develop the skills that are going to be useful regardless of where you end up after you graduate from the University of Auckland. So a lot of different opportunities for you to really turn into a well-rounded and employable human being, individual after you graduate, which is exciting for you to look forward to. Whether your undergraduate program is 3 or 4 years, that's something for you to just kind of map out and keep in mind, and go early and often to the career development team so that you can really start working on that. I know that they don't recommend, they'll take any time that you have to go and dedicate to that is great, but they do recommend students coming during their first year and kind of developing their skills throughout their time at university. So a lot of different ideas for you to keep in mind, just how we can support you throughout your entire process as well. So with that being said, I'm going to end my slideshow and we're going to look at questions that you have in the chat. Let's see here. All right, bear with me 1 minute. Okay, so let's see. We have some questions in the Q&A, and it's great to see students joining me from all over. Oh, wonderful. Yeah, this is great. Awesome. Okay, so let's take a look here and see what questions you had. All right. As an international student, what is the cost of living, schooling at Auckland? As an OSSD student, yep. Is there an advantage of being admitted to the university? So to answer the first question, the cost of living is dependent on the, of course, on, as I mentioned, the faculty. Nothing is that straightforward as this is the price tag on your admission, unfortunately. But that being said, as I mentioned, New Zealand, the cost of living is quite generous compared to the Canadian dollar right now. So, or I didn't mention that, but it's good to know. So the New Zealand dollar is, unfortunately for Kiwis, quite weak on a global landscape. But that means that students internationally going over there, the price is quite advantageous. I believe, generally speaking, it's about $26,000 Canadian dollars a year as sort of like a rough estimate of what you can expect to spend. And then, of course, we have all of the generous scholarships. And then you can work as a student, and the cost of living is quite good for Canadian students. So that's something to keep in mind. In terms of the cost comparison. Now, I will say that Auckland, just full transparency, Auckland is probably the most expensive city in New Zealand, but that is, of course, because it's the biggest city and you have a lot of social benefits like public transportation and natural aspects around the city as well. So that's why the cost of living is a little bit higher there than it is in, let's say, Wellington or Christchurch, but pretty comparable and something to keep in mind. Look at your program pages for the specific fees that are going to be, and make sure you remember everything that is posted on the University of Auckland's website is going to be in New Zealand dollars. So make sure you make that, you transfer that back. So for students on the Ontario Secondary School Diploma, is there an advantage of being admitted to the university? I'm not totally sure I understand what you mean by an advantage of being admitted, but we do have a lot of Canadian students or students that have Canadian qualifications joining us, and those students are pretty straightforward in terms of the qualification. So I believe I said it was a 65% average for qualifications for what you're going to be admitting with that, with the diploma. And advantages of being admitted to the university, you're going to be able to have an internationally recognized degree if you did want to go back to your home country or pursue that degree or pursue a further degree or employability elsewhere in the world. So I think that's the question, but if I misunderstood that, please feel free to clarify in the chat. Next question. Would you regard that international business be taken in the university? I would recommend that if you're interested in international business, of course. If you're interested in economics, or you're interested in music, or you're interested in nursing, I wouldn't recommend you study international business. Make sure you study something that you want to study and you really want to delve into over the next 3 or 4 years, because I wouldn't want you to change your program halfway through, which is possible, but highly not recommended if you're able to. So really thinking about what you want to study. But our international business program, if you're interested in it, is really good. And remember, it's in our business school, so it's triple accredited. So that affords you a lot of different employability opportunities. Next question. What opportunities do students have after schooling in Auckland in terms of employment? Good question. So there are a lot of different opportunities within Auckland, a lot of different internships that you can get. And remember, your academics, your professors that you're going to have in class in your major, they're very well connected too. They're highly ranked. They're working at an institution that is the #1 ranked institution in New Zealand. So they're going to have a lot of connections as well, and a lot of different networking opportunities for you. So don't forget about utilizing your academic network when you are making connections with your professors. But then, of course, you have the careers and employability team, and they're going to be connecting you with employers that we frequently have connections with to have students have internships with. Auckland is, again, a big city, so it's a hub of business in New Zealand. So there are a lot of top sectors and top employers that you're going to have access to as a student for internships and as a recent graduate as well. And talk to the students in your cohort, talk to different classmates that you have as well, and see what opportunities they're looking into. Word of mouth is usually the best way to go about getting internships and employment opportunities. So make sure you keep that in mind too. Okay. That is it in the Q&A, but let me just see. Okay. So some questions in the comments I see. One is about an IELTS requirement. So as I mentioned before, if you are getting your secondary school you're studying it in English full time, you just need to prove that you have 1 year of that academic English when you're making an application. And by prove, I mean when you're applying with your qualifications from Rosedale, you're going to be showcasing that you have received your secondary school diploma in English, and so you won't have to submit your IELTS. Now, this is just a top tip, not necessarily with the University of Auckland, but if you are going to be applying to a lot of international schools around the world, you may want to sit the IELTS or the TOEFL and get a score anyway. So just because we don't require it at Auckland, if you have a year of academic English under your belt, doesn't mean that that is what other international universities are going to have as a requirement. They may still require IELTS and TOEFL. So make sure you double check with them, and you may want to sit it anyway so that you have that English language score when applying to other places. But of course, how easy is it that Auckland doesn't have that? That's great. I think it goes to show we're quite flexible. We're very academically rigorous, but we are quite flexible with the needs of our students and the fact that we have such a huge international student population. We really value all of the different qualifications that you're going to be applying with. Okay, next question. How does on-campus accommodation differ from off-campus accommodation in quality, costs, and more? That's another really good question. All great questions so far. So on-campus accommodation it really depends on what kind of experience you want to have. I recommend on-campus accommodation for students who don't want to have to worry about the Auckland rental landscape. So if you have never been to New Zealand or Auckland before, and you have no idea about different neighborhoods or the setup of the city itself, it's probably going to be better for you to take one more thing off of your plate as a student and go with the university accommodation. Sometimes the university accommodation can be more expensive because we are closer to campus. We offer pastoral care. We have state-of-the-art facilities in some cases. So sometimes you are able to find a cheaper place to live on your own if you do the off-campus or your own independent rental route. However, those are not administered by the university. We don't really have a way to regulate those. So you're kind of on your own in that case. We can support you, but we don't have any affiliation with what you ultimately choose. And then, of course, if you're living off campus, you are going to have to purchase your own food, and you might have to find a flatmate as well on your own. Those are things that, again, we don't regulate. So if that is of interest to you and that's something that you want to pursue, especially if, the cost is more in line with what you're looking to spend, or you have a particular neighborhood you're interested in, then definitely pursue that route. But just remember, if you're interested in, not cooking for yourself every single night, then on campus is probably better. But there's a lot of differences between them. So it's really just the kind of experience you want to have. Also, remember, if you live off campus, you're going to be a little bit more removed from the university, which could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing, depending on if you want to have more of that campus involvement or if you want to have that separation. Okay, next question. Does the school have welfare programs for international students, most especially students from non-English speaking countries? I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that, but in terms of student services that we do have a lot of different student services for our international students. So depending on what you are interested depending on what you participate in your home country, plan in advance and get in touch with our student services team to let them know this is a support that you will specifically need. But our university is really good and really prioritizes that pastoral care of students. Again, because we're in this post-pandemic phase, mental health is still extremely important to us, and the needs of our students. And New Zealand is just so far away. We know that it's going to be a cultural shock for a lot of students. And so that's something to just keep in mind. I think that's what you mean. If I misunderstood what you meant by welfare, let me know. Okay, I think I answered the IELTS test and language requirement question. Are the student athlete programs at Auckland good? They are. So we have a lot of different sport opportunities for students. Let me see if I can pull up all of the exhaustive lists of sports that we have, and I'll link that in the comments. But the sports are, a lot of times they're intramural, which means they're not competitive. They're just like friendly sports that you would play. But then sometimes we do have competitive sports, but it's not the same as what you experience in North America. It's not, there aren't like leagues and things like that. It's a little bit less. If you do want to go see sports in New Zealand, I highly recommend going to a rugby match and watching the All Blacks. That is something that is, as you'll see, a very big deal to us. Okay, I'm just linking the page to all of our different societies so that you can have a look. And again, if you're like, I don't see the one that I'm looking for, you can start it. Just keep that in mind. Next question, can first year students at Auckland get jobs before they graduate, depending on the career? Yes, you can. But remember, as a student, you're only able to work 20 hours a week on your visa, 40 hours a week during breaks. So you can get a job, and I highly recommend on-campus jobs. They're a little bit more flexible than, let's say, getting a job at like Starbucks or something like that. We have a student ambassador program on campus, and that's a way for you to basically share your experience as a student with potential students to the university, many of whom are international. So you can give campus tours, you can be on panel discussions about why you chose your university and get paid for it. So the Student Ambassador Program is something that I highly recommend for students who want that flexibility in their academic schedule, but also want to work to make money while they're studying. What is your health insurance package at Auckland? Good question. So as part of your visa, you're actually going to have a health insurance package, as you call it. And that is something that you're going to pay one time. It will cover you for all 3 or 4 years of your undergraduate program. And it is compulsory. So you do have to get that health coverage as part of your visa. There's a dedicated visa team at the University of Auckland that can help with all of those visa questions. I can give kind of an overview, but I can't, and I'm not even allowed to answer all of those questions. So if you do apply and you are admitted, they're going to be the ones that you're going to hear from in terms of your next step with your visa. I'm going to go back to the Q&A in just a second, but before I do, I want to make sure everyone has my email, and I just put it in the chat. If any questions come up after today's presentation and you want to get in touch with me, please feel free to do so. Get in touch with me directly. Okay, back to the Q&A. One question is, are the student athlete programs good at Auckland? Same question, but same answer. Yes. What is the minimum score for admission into the business courses? Good question. So I'm good. I'm not that good that I know all of the different admissions requirements for every single program. Just keep in mind for the OSSD, it's a 65% overall, I believe, in 5 grade 12 subjects. So if there is a difference to that, when you go to the business page, the business course page on the website, which remember, a wealth of information, that is going to have the specific entry requirements for you in terms of a minimum score. So just keep that in mind. Any other questions?
Ashley, I've got a few questions, 3 questions that were sent to me directly, if you don't mind.
Oh, great. No, that's wonderful.
Yeah, so the first is, what are your most popular or competitive majors or programs?
Sure. That's a twofold answer. So most popular are going to be probably those within the top 50 ranked worldwide. So we have 12 different subjects that are ranked within the top 50 worldwide. Among those are those within archaeology, engineering, psychology, and then other programs that are not necessarily ranked within the top 50, but are still quite popular from a cultural standpoint, are going to be those within biology, sustainability, environmental science. Those courses at University of Auckland are very competitive just because of the landscape of New Zealand and how much of a value match that is to the country and to students who want to come there to study the biodiversity of the country. I'm trying to think, but yeah, those are kind of the most popular ones. Competitive are going to be those within the health sciences, law as well. But I've noticed a trend in those not necessarily being the most popular anymore. Health sciences and population health is, but law is sort of not on the decline because of quality, but just students are interested in a lot of different things, I think, as we're coming out of the pandemic. So that's a really good question.
Okay, next question is, what type of extracurricular activities are most popular on campus?
Yeah, great. So as you can see from the list that I sent over, we have tons, but I would say anything that really leverages that sense of place. So Auckland is located on an isthmus, which actually means it has 2 separate bodies of water on either side of it. And so you're never far from the beaches. So students really like to take advantage of water sports, canoeing, underwater club, things like that. We also have, as I mentioned, tramping clubs. So hiking is really popular. We're not far from the mountains. And even though we are located on the North Island, the South Island is even more remote. And there's lots of opportunities, natural opportunities for you to take advantage of. We take you on excursions, but of course you can do a lot of exploring on your own.
Great. I think that that's just about time for us. So I want to, first of all, thank you very much, Ashley. Your presentation was very informative and helped us understand the many reasons why the University of Auckland is rated as one of the top universities around the world. And it doesn't hurt that it's located in such a beautiful country. So thanks again for that. At this time, we'll be closing this session so that students can move on to their next event. Thanks again, Ashley, and bye everybody, and have a good day or a good evening wherever you may be. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.